So, maybe let me say a few words about my organization before starting. I'm from the International Coalition, which is a coalition of intergovernmental and civil society organizations established in the mid-90s, where it was called the Popular Coalition to Eradicate Hunger and Poverty, when it started to work more specifically on land issues, land reform and energy security from 2003, with the goal of promoting secure and equitable access and control of land for the poor. We have about 120 institutional members composed of intergovernmental organizations, farm organizations, NGOs, etc. When this phenomenon, which we call the large-scale land transactions, started, we realized that this is at the heart of the raison d'etre of ILC itself. And that is the reason why we started to address this phenomenon through various means. One is through a study and then the framework of what we call the commercial pressures on land. And we are happy to note that even the FAO study here has used that broader framework of this commoditization of land in general. We are also involved through policy dialogues, through studies, etc. And I will maybe touch on that. We have, for example, recently commissioned about 30 studies, thematic studies, case studies, some of them covering this region. I've listed it there, but I will not go into details. And we are due to produce a synthesis report later this year in December, probably already next year. We have also a land-based, a web-based portal in which we were using to monitor all land deals that are reported in the press, using fixed drivers, food, fuel, minerals, carbon, tourism, timber. It's much broader than agriculture itself only. We also have a database of land transactions, which we are working on with various organizations, including Oxfam, CIRAD, etc. And this database contains more than 2,000 land deals from around the world. And it is being cross-checked, and we hope that the result will be available in the first quarter of 2012. A new phase then will follow, which will be a country-level studies, which will be for policy dialogue, but based on the monitoring of the land deals. I would say that when reading the paper by the comments by Boras and others, there are, I think, a number of issues I should mention first. That, like the authors of the papers, we in ILC also pretend to take the side of the poor. But as you can imagine, because of the composition of ILC, the views diverge on how to achieve this land approach. And given the complexity and magnitude of the problem, we value and even encourage the plurality of perspective on land issues. I should talk about also my background as an African, as Senegalese. I might be biased by reading this by taking a look at this phenomenon. First of all, because I'm from a very good country, one of the poorest in the world. When I look at the context of Latin America, I consider that maybe Latin America, they have more a problem of distribution of wealth rather than of wealth creation, which is a problem with most of Africa. I also compare, when I look at the farming sector, I think it is technically relatively advanced in Latin America compared to Africa. And I think that these parameters, to me, explain the emphasis being placed on foreignization here, with the implicit understanding that the region has in itself the capacity to finance the investment in the sector and has a technical expertise to do it. In Africa, it is clear that in some cases we think that the solution can come from technical expertise and resources available elsewhere. So my comment may be shared, or not shared by those ILC members, and even within the sector. The general information, I know that Jim Boras is one of the most influential thinkers on land governance, land reform, and agrarian reform. So I think that we are grateful that he is continuing to commit, and the paper, I think that he is very, very, informative and also inspiring, and that itself is not surprising. I think reading the papers, I did not have the advantage myself to go to read the 70s paper, but only the summary done by Boras, I think it fills a gap. As Latin America, I think, is not substantively covered in the land grab studies, like around Africa or even Asia. I think the review has the merit of interrogating the paradigms we are using to analyze and talk about land grab. I think that is very good. The concept of flex crop, fuel, feed fuel, I think that is very helpful on understanding many of the land-based investment and speculative practices that we are observing today. But the authors, I think and that is also a merit, they recognize that the increasing complexity of the problem and the diversity of perspectives, including even among and within the radical social movements. Where are the observations where our understanding the entirety and myself seem to corroborate some of the findings in the review done by Boras is first that the phenomenon is not about food only, and it needs to be looked in the context of multiple crises we are facing today: food, energy, climate, financial, etc. That is important, and the land matrix I have just mentioned is confirming that probably 40% of the land need that are reported relate mostly to biofuels rather than to food. So that is, I think, that's an important element. I think that's the reason why I use the broader concept of commercial pressures on land in order to capture. Another element also where we concur with observation made in the review by Boras is that large-scale land deals are important in Latin America, also less than in Africa and in Asia, but not limited only to Brazil and Argentina. Also, the concept of high level of intra-regional transaction, that is also something we have noted in our own information base. Where there are many others where we concur, but I think it's better to talk about the areas where we have a more nuanced views compared to the points made in the review by Boras. First is that land grabbing is taking place in the context of strong governance in Latin America. I think what we have observed is it is true that good governance and rule of law is more advanced in Latin America countries than in many other African countries. That is true. And I think that it is for that reason that people tend to think that there is not a Latin America land grabbing problem because the decisions are made in the basis of a responsible governance context. Therefore, the countries, they know what they are doing. Therefore, there is no reason for having a general popular expression, for example, of indignation. Like, for example, when land grabbing is taking place in the US or in Canada or Australia, people are not complaining, people are assuming that these are coming from a deliberate choice from the country. But I think it's a mistake, because what we observe is that, in fact, even in the context of Latin America, there are existing governance deficiencies which is being used by investors in order to have access to land contracts. When we were meeting last week in Salta, for example, participants noted for them that there is what they call an organized land mafia that is also active in some countries, for example. And some talk about, for example, the role of land sharks and also the conflict, the land-related conflicts. And I think where you have a high level of conflicts, that means that the rule of law is not functioning optimally. And all the features we have seen also in Latin America. Another area is the importance of transparency. I think the authors seem to downplay the importance of transparent decision making. And I think that can undervalue also the potential role of civil society organizations in promoting transparent information flow, etc. And that is the formal aspect. The role of the state. I think the complexity and changing nature of the role of the state deserves a more systematic treatment. In Salta, for example, many participants mentioned, for example, that in some transactions, the landowner, land user, they are in direct contact with the investor. They don't perceive the role of the state. The state is absent in some cases. In other cases, they consider that the state is powerless in the with more other actors playing a big role. Or take the side of the investor, of foreigners. But it should be recognized also, and that is what is important, that the state are also formulating laws in Latin America in order to discipline the large-scale land transactions in the name of the national interest. I think that is a very positive, notable element. There is also the impact of land grabbing. I think that it does not seem there is a missed opportunity here. Probably it relates to the 17 studies. Latin America is an area where you have a huge number of agricultural business, agribusiness sectors. And there are some lessons to be learned there. What are the impacts they are having now today? I think that this is a missed opportunity in order to inform the outside world of the lessons learned. Because the current transactions, there are too recent to analyze what are the actual impacts. So these are some of the elements. So another aspect is which is absolutely critically important is the concept. I think that the debate is important, is healthy, provided that we are talking about the real issues, the symptom of the problem, rather than on misunderstandings and betrothal. In this particular case of land grabbing, I think it is important to define the concept. And in that regard, an effort made by Boras and others to define the features, I think this is commendable. Although they define themselves, they refrain from attempting to give a general definition. I think that key concepts such as land grabbing, foreignization, agricultural investment, land concentration, these need to be clarified upfront. I think that the definition used by FAO with the three criteria, these are very useful. What I talked about it, so I will not come back to it. But there are specific limitations to it. Because if you use this definition, that's implied that all forms of land-based investment and acquisition, even done illegally and in a non-transparent manner, and having significant environmental damages, would be nevertheless acceptable because it would not qualify as land grabbing, provided, for example, that they are not large in scale, that foreign governments are not involved, and that they don't have impact on food security. I think that this is a two-number definition. About the 10 defining features of land grabbing, they also raise a number of questions. On the basis of the feature, of these features in the Boras paper, if you have a large-scale land investment with the feature 1, which is that being carried out legally, because I say that the criteria is legally or illegally, so it doesn't matter at that level. Even if it is done in a transparent manner, carried out legally, without corruption, and does not dispossess the occupant and users of the land, nor adversely incorporate them in the venture, that an investment that does not undermine food security, nor involve negative environmental impact, and that does not have the objective or result of producing for export, this investment in the category given there will still be qualified as land grabbing as long as it is taking place in the last decade or so, that is criteria 10, and has to do with the rise of the rate and is linked to the feed food complex and the recent financial crisis. And this is what the definition gives. That's the reason why we think that given the negative connotation of land grabbing, the suggested defining features need to be better clarified by the authors. We at ILC, we did an effort to define what is land grabbing in our recent assembly in Tirana. We define it as acquisition and concessions that have one or more of the following. They are in violation of human rights, particularly the right of home. They are not based on free, prior, informed consent. They are not based on the thorough assessment or are in disregard of social and environmental impact. They are not based on transparent contracts. They are not based on effective and democratic planning, independent oversight, and municipal participation. This definition could have this limitation, but at least when you define land grabbing in this way, nobody will say, I'm for land grabbing. That's the advantage of the definition. It insists on the negative aspect of it. On this basis, I think we were able to have all our members, despite the diversity, to agree at least on this particular concept. I will conclude now because there are so many aspects that are important. I think the reviews and done contain very informative and very useful information. It raises a number of other critical questions I did not talk about, for example, the role of the actors, the question and relevance of the principles, of having a principle of code of conduct in order to respond to land grabbing. The concept of land sovereignty also is a concept that is in the text, I did not discuss it. But at this stage, I think what is critically needed in order to move forward is to ensure that we are talking about the same issue, that the misunderstandings are minimized. The key concept needs to be clarified. The debate should be based on evidence as much as possible. ILC has tried to contribute to these two levels through the Tirana Declaration and the land monitoring effort we are doing around the world, and the result will be available in the coming weeks or months. Right? Thank you very much.